So now, as last time, we had to decide what side we were at to make sure what texture to show. It's the same with this, only it's much simpler than before. Remember, I had that full table of all the combinations you needed. Nothing anywhere near as complicated as that. Get icon. You still need to side in the metadata into the function. That's still the same function. It's just you're not going to return very much. If the metadata equals 0, it means it's ungrown, so you want to return the ungrown item icon. I keep spelling return wrong for some reason. Return. Okay, and then else return grown icon. I know I've put blocks in one of the statements and not blocks in the other. That's a bit strange. Why did I do that? There we go. Okay. So that's much simpler than the chest one. It just tests whether it's grown or ungrown, returns the right texture for that. Okay, so a few more things in this clip. This is the last class we've got to do really before we set up the... Well, we've got one more after it, after we set up the main class, but it's something very simple that does quite a lot, but we'll get to that in a minute. There's quite a few things left in this. So what we want to do is we want to say what happens when this block receives an update tick. So remember, we've told it we want to give it a random update tick. So now we need to tell it what to do. So stuff like I'm trying to think of the example. Like mob spawners use the random ticks to spawn a mob. So that's what it does in here. We're not going to spawn mobs from this. That'd be quite mean. Int x, int y, int z, and it also takes a random because there's an element of randomness to this kind of growing of the block. So there's a few different things that we need to get out of the road before we tell it to like update the block. So there's a couple of things that you want to do to make sure it can't grow. So first, basically, what we need to do is we need to say, is the block already grown? So we've got the world here, so we can get the block metadata from the world. Metadata. X, Y, and Z, because we're interested in this block. If it's already equal to 1, that means that the block has already grown from the ungrown onions into the grown onions, so there's nothing we can do. So why don't we just return out of this block? I know it's a void method, and I think I've done this before, but it just gets out of it. So that's all you need to do for that, right? That bit. So if the block's already grown, don't do anything to it. Next, we want to make sure that the light value is enough for the block to grow. So, stuff like mushrooms that grow indoors don't have as much of a dependency on this. So we want to get the block light value. So this one, yeah. Okay. You want to get the block light value, and it's not the block light value of the one that has the crop in it, it's the one above it. So really, is the block above it light enough? And the same kind of thing for seeds. If it's less than 9, that's bad. So the light values in Minecraft, 9 seems to be the kind of point at which crops can grow. So if it's less than 9, you don't want to do anything. I should probably say that to kind of clear up why we're doing this, that this update tick is going to decide when to grow the plant. So that's why I'm saying if the block is less than 9, don't do anything, because you don't want it to grow if the light value is too low. Next, we've got a kind of random element to it, because if you didn't put any randomness into it, if the block metadata was not grown and the light value was over 9 or 9 or over, it would immediately grow every time, and we don't really want that because we want it to be kind of realistic. So I'm going to put in something similar to what happens with the seeds. So I want to get a next int is fertile world x y minus 1 z Okay. And then, what am I doing here? I need to. Do you know, I'm going to write it down and then I'm going to explain it, because explaining it at the same time is quite hard. So there we go. So end that not equal to 0. Okay, now I'll explain it. So let's go from the inside out. Okay, so this is fertile to ask us here. In the world, is this position fertile? So x, y minus 1z is the block that the crop is sitting on top of. So if the block that the crop is sitting on top of is fertile, then that will return true. If not, it will return 0. So it will return 0 or 1, I believe. On its boolean, it will return true or false. Never mind. Okay, so because it's quite hard to explain, if the block underneath is fertile, it's much easier for it to grow than that. So if the block is fertile, this will take a random int between 0 and 12. See, if you think of it, this here is an if statement here. This is an if statement says, is it fertile? Return 12, if not, return 25. Then this says, if the random int between 0, because there's no starting argument, and either 12 or 25 is not equal to 0. So what this says is, if it's fertile, you've only got 12 values to choose from. If it's not, you've got 25 values to choose from, so it's basically double. You've got a kind of half chance of it growing. Not a half chance, you've got more numbers to potentially spoil the growth. So basically what that's saying is we want this random number to be 0. And if you've got 12 numbers to pick from, the random number is going to be more likely to be 0 than it would be if you had 25 numbers to choose from. Okay, so if it's not equal to 0, it means we want to do nothing with it. So we want to return. That's a bit confusing there, just because there's so many things in that one line, but basically it's just asking if it's fertile, you want it to have more of a chance of growing than if it's not. If it passes all of those, then you want to set the block metadata to grow the block. So this is the very last thing that it does. If it manages, if it's not grown, the light's okay, and if it manages to get through this random, which is quite, it's quite a lot of stuff it needs to get through, which is why sometimes the crops take absolutely ages to grow in Minecraft. So you can alter these numbers here to make it grow faster, but it does grow eventually if you just leave it. So set block metadata, and it's not just set block metadata, it also notifies all the other blocks that it's changed. So it takes X, Y, and Z for the position of the block. It takes the metadata value, so we want to set the metadata to 1. So that means that we're saying this block's growing now, we'll change the texture. This is this magic 2 on the end of every set block metadata that seems to just stay there no matter what. Okay, so that's us done that. So we've updated the tick to say, are we going to grow this block? Okay, so we're going to do something to say when a neighbor block is changed. So block public void on neighbor, and it's the American spelling of neighbor, so no U. Block change takes a world, an X, a Y, a Z, and it also takes the ID of the neighbor, so neighbor ID. Okay, this is here so that we can make sure that the crop can stay planted. So Minecraft is going to do this for us basically, but it means that if you break the block under your crop, it's going to go away. It's not going to be able to stay on a thin air. So we've got if not, can block stay? I said Minecraft was going to do that for us, but I meant this is the same way as Minecraft makes sure that the block can stay. We're going to make this can block stay thing. But it's the same way as Minecraft uses it to make sure that when you break something under it, that it can still stay on thin air. So normal blocks can stay suspended, unless the sand when you break it, that falls. So we're making sure if the block cannot stay. So if the block can't stay in world X, Y, Z, so we're going to make this in a wee minute. We're going to drop block as item. So this takes the block that was there and drops it as an item in the world. This takes the world. It takes X, Y, and Z, as you would assume. Then it takes the block metadata, X, Y, Z, and then there's a 0 on the end as well. And we'll just make sure that's enough. Yep, that's enough. So this 0 here is one of these magic numbers. And then you want to set the block metadata of X, Y, and Z to 0 again, because there's nothing there. 0 means ungrown and nothing really, because it's a thin air block. So we want to set, when you break it, it's going to change from a crop block to an air block. So you want the metadata to go back to 0, just in case. It's better to set it back to what it was before. 0, and there's our little 2 there, as usual. Okay, so that just sets the air block that we're going to create back into a 0. Okay, so that's what happens when some block beside it changes. So it's any block above, below, side to side, whatever. Just make sure you can still have the block on that, wherever it is. Okay, so now we need to do this can block stay. I know that that's going to sit there and say that's alright, but we're going to override it just in case, because block can stay is completely different from a crop. Okay, so public boolean can block stay. So we're going to override this method, and you need world, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so we need to get the block under it again. So I'm going to get block soil, and I'm just going to go to blocks list. And we're going to go and get the world.get block ID from the block under it, similar to what we did earlier, X, Y minus 1, Z. So that takes the block under it again. Now we need to make sure that this block is okay, so return. This is going to be one of these, just return big statement, and it will return true or false. World.get block full light value. So this is the, I believe, the light value on all sides. If I said that right, if I wrote that down right. Get block full light value X, Y, Z. We need to make sure that's greater than or equal to 8. This is just Minecraft, that's not gonna, what's going on here? Have I missed something out? No. Oh. Get full block light value. Okay. So if the full block light value is greater than or equal to 8, or, double line for or, we need to make sure that the block can see the sky, so it can see above it. Because if soil is underground, it doesn't work. See the sky, X, Y, and Z. Okay, we need an and here. Oh, we need to close this bracket, sorry. So that whole thing is 1, that bit there. And let's actually bring this down. It's going to be quite a few lines, but text is a bit big to put it all in one line. We need to make sure that the block is not equal to null, and that the block can sustain the plant. Can sustain plant. Whoops. World XYZ forward direction dot up. Whoops. What's going on? Forward direction dot up, and the plant is this. Never mind. No, it's not. We're not in the plant class. It's going to be test mod dot whatever you're going to call the seeds, and we need to cast it to iPlantable, because when you implement the interface, it doesn't really cast it that much. Not that it doesn't cast it much. It just kind of converts it a little bit. Just need to make sure that it is an iPlantable. So tutorial mod dot I'm going to call it onion seeds when we get into that class. I need to remember all these variable names when I get in here, so I need to import some stuff. Onion seeds. Okay, so that will return true if all those things are okay, and false if it can't. Can blocks stack. Where did I get that from? Can blocks stay. That was lucky. Okay, just another couple of things now. So we want to return an int, which is the ID dropped. So this is when you break the block, what happens. So we did that with the stone to drop the little powder stuff from it. This takes the metadata of the block. It takes a random, oops, and it takes another variable that we don't need. So if this is where we're going to do the harvesting things. So if the metadata is equal to 0, then we want to return tutorial mod dot, and then it's the seeds. So I called it onions. So I'm going to call it onion seeds dot item ID. Okay, so that if it's not grown yet, we're going to return the seeds. If the metadata is equal to 1, which means it's grown, we're going to return tutorial. Oops. Tutorial mod dot. It's going to be, what do I call it? What will I call it? I might just call it onion. And we want to return the item IDs for that as well. And then we're just going to put a return -1 as well, because both of those things are inside if statements. So it won't like it if you don't return anything else, and -1 is kind of a good error number. Okay, and one more thing, and it's something to do with creative mode, that when you left click on the plant or something, it harvests the seeds. And it's called ID picked. Like you can pick the seeds in creative mode without breaking them and stuff like that. I've never used it, so I'm not really going to say much about it, but it just takes the word in x, int, y, int, z, and we're going to return the seeds ID. Onion seeds. I guess you could turn the onion from that if you wanted to do that in creative mode. Okay, so that's us done our crop. Now, basically all we've got to do left is fix our main class to register all this stuff, and then I'm going to deal with Bonemeal as well, just as a kind of last thing to do. Let's go just to the bottom of this so that we can put these in. Okay, so I need a block, put a static final block out. This is going to be the crop, so onion crop. I hope I've done that wherever I needed that to be. Equals new onion crop. I'm going to give it a number. Let's see what have we got. I've been putting 700 for the chest. Let's put 800, just keep it well out of the road. Okay, so that's the new onion crop. We need to make the item, which is the seeds. Oops, public static final item onion seeds. I'm failing at spelling just now. Seeds equals, and it's new, what do I call it, onion seeds. This is slightly different, remember, because we have a few things to put in here. So 801 is the ID. I'm just going to put that in as well. We need the crop ID. So it's going to be onion crop dot block ID. And then you need the block that we're going to put it on. It's going to be a tilde field. So I need to go into the block class, and tilde field is what it's called. And we want the block ID of that. So that's what we're going to plant it on. Okay, and we need the item that is the actual onion. I'm just going to call it onion because I think that's what I called it. New onion. And we're going to call it 802. Okay, so that's our two items in our block that we need. You might notice that we've got 4 textures but only 3 blocks because we need the onion, we need the seeds, but these are the same block. Remember, just in case you're confused about that. Okay, let's go right down the bottom of our load method and get this stuff away from everything else. So let's register our block first. Okay, so game registry. And we want to register our, here we go, I'm going to write cabbage again, onion crop, and call it onion crop. Now for this, usually we register the block and we add a name. We don't need a name for this because we can't actually get the block. The block that gets planted in the ground isn't something you can pick up and never have really, so you don't need to add a name for it. Then we need to add the names for the items, so let's go to language registry. We've done this often enough, so we should know what we're doing. Add name, object, we're going to do onion, and we're just going to call it an onion. Do the same, oops, language registry, and we're going to do the seeds, onion seeds, and I'm going to call it onion seeds. Okay, so we've got 2 more things to do. You might notice that we've got no way of getting the seeds other than going into creative mode and getting them, but you can actually add it so that it falls out of grass when you break it. It's very easy to do, and it's 1 line. So it's Minecraft Forge dot add grass seed. It takes an item stack of the seed that you want and a weight. So new item stack, and we're going to give it an item stack of the seeds. So what's it called? Onion seed. Seeds. There we go. Onion seeds. Okay, and the weight is going to be a number of how often it comes out. Wheat is 10, so that's quite regular. If you wanted to put it down and say that it was very rare, then that's fair enough. I'm going to put it 10 so that we can actually test that in a video that's not too long, although I think it is quite long already. And the only thing we need to do is do our Bonemeal thing. Now I'm going to do the Bonemeal after I write the line here that actually instantiates the Bonemeal thing. This is something that you've not seen before, and it's just something to do with events. Minecraft Forge event bus, so it's all the stuff. It fires all the events off to Minecraft Forge, and you need to register. We're basically registering an event with Minecraft Forge. We're going to give it the new class. So I'm going to call it my Bonemeal. No, that sounds a bit weird. I'm going to call it onion Bonemeal, but really you could do this one class for all your Bonemeal and for all your crops. New onion Bonemeal, and we're not going to have that yet because we need to create this class called onion Bonemeal. Okay. Right. So in here we want an annotation called forge subscribe, which is something to do with all the events, and just one method called public void on use Bonemeal. So you know how you realise that we've made a constructor in the class, but we haven't put it in here because when you create a class in Java and you don't put one, it automatically assumes you want an empty one that does nothing. So it's easy to do that. It's quite nice the way that happens. This method takes a Bonemeal event. I'm going to call it event. Okay. And in here we want to make sure that our event.id, is it capital ID? Yes. Okay, event.id is equal to our onion Okay, so we want not our onion, but we want an onion crop because we want to make. If you use it on an onion, well, you can't because it's an item. So you want to use it on the block. So onion crop dot block ID. Oh, wait a minute. I'm gonna have to put tutorial mod in there. There we go. That's better. Sorry, forgot about that. So if, whoops, that semicolon shouldn't be there. So if the ID that you're using the bone meal on is the same as the onion crop, then we want to make sure that the block grows straight away. So we want to get the event, and from the event you can get the world that the event's taking place in. And world has this set block metadata with notify, and you can see where we're going here. If you've been watching the rest of it and picking up on it, you should know what we're doing here. So you give it the x, y, and z, but the x, y, and z is event.x, event.y, oops, that's t. Yep. Event.z, this is the metadata, 1, and this magic 2 number, so this says if the event Bonemeal ID was the same as the onion crop, then we've also used the bone meal on the crop, so we want to set the block metadata to grow the block right away. I'm going to have to import this for subscribe because I didn't do that before. And that's us. So I guess we're going to test that. So I'll run the Minecraft and I'll be back when this loads because when I'm recording it takes quite a while. Okay, there we go. So it's loaded and I'm gonna create a new world. Let's call it onion test. Put it on survival so it can fly about as usual. And we will load this world up. Let's hope that I haven't made any mistakes. Yet again, I'm underwater. Oh, at least I've got close to that. Okay, so let's make sure that the stuff's turned up. So, going to food. There's our onion seeds and an onion. Okay, so that's fine. They've turned up. Let's get diamond hole so that we can make the ground the way we want it when we want to do that. Let's see if we can get some onion seeds from this grass. Come on. Onion seeds. Come on. Well, they're not turning up today. Ah, there we go. Finally. It's about time. Okay, so we've got one onion. Let's see if we can make any more. That is a normal seeds, so, you know, when you put it in at the same numbers, the wheat doesn't take away from the fact that, oh, I've got another one, that the seeds for wheat also grow. Okay, so let's make a couple of tilled ground here, and put our onions in. So you can see where the block bounds are, they're quite high there. There's 1.5 blocks width, and there's our texture for when it has been grown, so you can see that the way the textures, I think it looks just like 4 crossed over. I mean, if you probably want to take more time to make sure that it looks a little bit nicer than this, but this is just for purposes of showing you. I'm going to go in and get myself some bone meal because we could wait for ages, but you never usually see them growing anyway, so it wouldn't be really that exciting to wait for it to grow, and it also never seems to grow when you're there. So there's the onion, so let's break them for a minute, and you see the seeds come back out of it, so that's fine. And let's grow them. There's our texture changed. So there's our onions now. They look kind of like carrots. Anyway, there's our onions, and if we break it, we get an onion back. Oh, they're going to go in the water. There's one. And there's our onion. Heavily textured onion. Now we can't do anything with this yet. You can hit stuff with it, but we can't eat it, and we can't make it do anything special. So what I'm going to do is, in the next tutorial, I'm going to have it so that the onion will restore some of our health and maybe do something else to do with effects, I don't know, fire resistance or something, but I'll see what we can get done for next time. Okay, so yeah, looks sort of done, so hopefully that's all not too confusing or anything. As usual, just give me any questions in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I can. Yeah, so I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.